The WTA is in a total state of panic right now, and for a very good reason. The reality is that the world of professional tennis has never seen a power play quite like this one. Iga Świątek just proved that when her crown is at stake, she is willing to burn everything to the ground to keep it. The documents and the timelines prove that this was not just a coaching change. This was a calculated strike designed to destabilize the entire tour. It all started when the cracks in Iga's game became impossible to ignore after the Miami Open. The world watched in shock as the former #1 suffered a brutal first-round exit. She was beaten by Magda Linette in a match that looked like a total mental collapse. But while the critics were busy writing her off, Iga was already making moves in the shadows. She knew that the old system was failing her. She knew that her former coach, Mpetshi, didn't have the answers anymore. So she did the one thing that no one saw coming. She fired him on the spot and started a 72-hour cycle of chaos that has changed the sport forever. The villain in this story is the WTA establishment that thought they could manage Iga's decline. They thought they could watch her slide down the rankings without a fight. But Iga Świątek is the hero of this narrative because she took her destiny into her own hands. She didn't wait for permission, and she didn't care about the optics. She went after the only man who could turn her into a clay court monster again. That man is Francisco Roig. The truth is that the hiring of Francisco Roig was a move of pure desperation that turned into a masterstroke. Roig is the man who stood by Rafael Nadal's side for 17 years. He saw every one of those 22 Grand Slam titles up close. But there was a major problem. Roig wasn't available. He was already coaching the rising French star Giovanni Mpetshi Perricard. But the reality is that in Iga's world, if you want something, you take it. The reports coming out of the locker room prove that Mpetshi Perricard was completely blindsided. He didn't get a phone call from Roig, and he didn't get a heads up from Iga. He found out from his agent that his coach was gone. The Frenchman openly admitted that he felt betrayed by the ruthless nature of the move. He told the media that he thought he could trust people, but he learned the hard way that it is a cold world. But while Mpetshi Perricard was left coachless and searching for answers, Iga was already moving to the next phase of her plan. She wasn't just hiring a coach, she was dynasty shopping. She was cherry-picking the greatest clay court mind alive to ensure that no one could touch her in Paris. The villain here is the manipulative WTA culture that allows these kinds of sudden betrayals to happen without any protection for the players who get left behind. But Iga isn't playing by their rules anymore. She is playing for history. By April 6th, the plan entered its most secretive phase. Iga disappeared from the public eye and retreated to the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca. This wasn't just a training camp. This was a war room. The videos that started leaking out from the academy showed a version of Iga that we haven't seen in months. She looked focused and she looked dangerous. But the most shocking part was who was standing next to her on the red dirt. It wasn't just her new coach, Francisco Roig. It was the king of clay himself. Rafael Nadal was not just a spectator. The evidence proves that Nadal was actively involved in every single minute of the practice sessions. On April 7th, the tennis world went into a frenzy when footage emerged of Nadal stepping onto the court to personally fix Iga's mechanics. This is a level of access that no other player on the WTA Tour could ever dream of having. It is a private masterclass between the greatest to ever do it on clay and the woman who wants to take his place. The reality is that the evidence proves that the tracking beta shows that Iga is no longer playing her usual aggressive game. Under the guidance of Roig and Nadal, she has completely changed her court positioning. For years, Iga's weakness was being rushed on fast surfaces because she stood too close to the baseline. But the clips from Mallorca prove she is now standing several feet back. She is adopting the exact same deep court strategy that Nadal used to win 14 titles at Roland Garros. This isn't just a minor tweak. This is a total reconstruction of her game. By standing deeper, she gives herself that extra fraction of a second to unload her heavy topspin. This is the Nadal Blueprint. It makes her impossible to hit through on clay. The villain in this scenario is any rival who thinks they can still bully Iga off the court. The documents from the training sessions show that her ball speed has increased and her error rate has plummeted. She is preparing to turn the clay season into a graveyard for the rest of the WTA. But the chaos didn't stop with the training. The industry is currently distancing itself from the old guard, as the betting odds for the French Open have completely shifted in Iga's favor overnight. The reality is that the Iga meltdown that the media was praying for is officially over. The critics who said she was mentally fragile after Miami are now looking like fools. The WTA rulebook doesn't have a clause against hiring the best talent in the world, but the backlash from other camps has been intense. Rivals are calling it unfair access. They're claiming that the relationship between Iga and the Rafa Nadal Academy gives her an illegal advantage. But those accusations are falling apart because the truth is simple. Iga Świątek was smart enough to build these bridges while everyone else was focused on social media. She used her 72 hours of chaos to build a fortress around her career. She took a failing situation and turned it into a monopoly on clay court expertise. The hero in this story is the player who realized that to be the best, you have to work with the best. The systemic implications of this move are going to be felt for years. We are seeing a new era of super teams in tennis, where the top players are no longer just hiring coaches, they are hiring entire legacies. Iga poaching Roig and getting private time with Nadal has set a precedent that is scaring the WTA leadership. They realize they are losing control over the competitive balance of the tour. But the reality is that Iga doesn't care about balance. She cares about winning. The images of her smiling next to Rafa in Mallorca prove that she has regained her confidence. She has been totally rebuilt from the ground up in just 3 days. The 72 hours of chaos was actually a surgical strike on the rest of the field. Every rival who thought Iga was vulnerable is now realizing they were walking into a trap. The footage proves her serve is bigger and her movement is more fluid. She has the Roig tactical brain and the Nadal physical intensity. The industry experts are now forced to admit that this was the most brilliant move of Iga's career. She didn't let the Miami loss define her. She used it as fuel to fire the people who weren't working and hire the people who would make her unbeatable. The villainous narrative that she was calculated or cold for firing Swiatek and poaching Roig is just a cover for the fear that her rivals feel. They know that a peak Iga Świątek on clay is a nightmare, but an Iga Świątek who has been trained by Rafael Nadal is a death sentence for their title hopes. The documents and the viral clips from Mallorca are the only evidence we need. The transition is complete. The old Iga who was struggling with her identity is gone. In her place is a clay court machine that has the backing of the greatest dynasty in the history of the sport. The WTA thought they were watching a downfall, but they were actually watching a resurrection. The reality is that the rest of the tour is playing for second place. Iga Świątek thought they'd destroy her, but they only destroyed themselves. The countdown to the French Open has begun, and the momentum is entirely on one side of the net. The 72 hours of chaos have settled into a terrifying calm for Iga Świątek. She has the coach, she has the mentor, she has the strategy. The WTA executives are left holding the pieces of a broken season while Iga prepares to lift the trophy again. It was a masterstroke of desperation that became a masterstroke of power. The critics can talk about the optics and the rivals can complain about the poaching, but the results on the dirt will be the final word. The truth is that Iga Świątek didn't just change her team, she changed the game. She proved that being the hero sometimes means being the one who makes the toughest calls. She didn't wait for the system to help her, she broke the system and built something better. The world watched the chaos, but Iga was the only one who saw the vision. The reality is that the crown isn't going anywhere. Iga Świątek thought they'd destroy her, but they only destroyed themselves.